Hey guys, welcome back to the American Dream podcast. I'm here with another special guest, my boy Dan Z. Thanks for coming, brother.
Of course, man.
There you go. I know you came from Arizona, and then I know you're speaking at the American Dream Conference tomorrow. And one of the things that I guess that stands out within this event is that you're coming back from our first event. So I'm excited for you to see how our event has grown, much like any other event or business, right? In short, you know, I know you a lot pretty well as a person, I would say, but for anyone watching that doesn't know you, clearly you're very successful. I guess, you know, in terms of your trajectory from being a kid to now, how would you kind of sum up your life?
Wow. Sum up my whole life. How many words do I get?
3.
First I want to say, man, I'm a people person, and I appreciate when I see other people that are trying the best they can to have success in their own life and are willing to take the steps and be consistent and go for it. And that's what drew me to you originally, right? When we first met and we first started talking about the event that you're throwing and all these things. And I saw someone who wanted it really bad. And to me, I'm drawn to that. And to see, even like while we're sitting in this podcast room, and you call me up like, dude, you got to check our new podcast room out. It's so clean. And I'm here. I'm like, it's pretty clean, man. So, you know, in the last guest I was on your show, and he said, you know, your success is a compound of your daily efforts, right? So as we're sitting here today in this podcast, it is a combination of your efforts and my efforts too, every day. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's the beautiful thing that for life that I've seen is that those efforts compound, and no one really understands that. Well, I won't say no one, but most people don't understand how much of an impact it has. I'm going to segue into my life here in a second, but I wanted to recognize you for the good work that you've done, because the mission statement behind American Dream is something that I resonate with deeply to my core, because I know what it feels like to start with nothing and to have a father that immigrated from another country. I know what it's like to be in that situation. And so I believe in the cause and the mission. That's why it's not hard for me to pick up the phone and say, yeah, I'll support you. So I just wanted to start off with that. But
thank you, man. That means a lot.
So going to my life and to sum it up, you know, I grew up in Vallejo, California. It's a pretty rough town. And if you didn't grow up that way, it's hard to relate to it. And that's why when I hear people that are success stories who came from the bottom and worked their way up, and the bottom to everyone is different, and just like success is arbitrary. It's what you think success is depending on the person. But for me, in my interpretation of the upbringing of a lot of these guys who have created successes, that the opportunity isn't abundant. What you think is how you need to live your life, selling drugs on the corner, you know, getting involved in gangs and that kind of environment, it's easy to fall into that when you're in the wrong place, because you don't even have the opportunity to see. The blinders aren't even, you're fogged to everything else around. And all you are is you're engulfed in this ghetto lifestyle of you know, this cycle of just perpetual, you know, negativity that you're never going to. This is the life that you're supposed to live. You're supposed to either, you know, slang or get killed or end up in prison. Like, that's just the life that people live, and that's a reality. And very few people from my hometown make it out. But I knew there was a time I knew that I had to get out of there if I ever wanted to become successful in my life. Because you've heard the whole crabs in a bucket, right?
Yeah, I have actually, yeah. I'm using that as my opener for tomorrow.
That's great. It's important because, you know, and we're a product of our environment, right? Yeah. And so just like that, when you grow up in an area where you're underfunded, you know, in that lack of a better word, everyone is pulling you down, and they're tearing at you to say, no, this is where you're supposed to be. Nobody makes it out. Nobody succeeds in life. Nobody has the nice stuff. You know, I mean, you have flashy things. You have guys with old Buicks with 22-inch rims, right? With beat in the trunk. You got that, right? But you don't have real long-term success. It's not something that's prevalent, so you don't think about it. And when I was a kid, I remember going and visiting my uncle down in Del Mar, down in Southern California, and I saw the way his kids were, and they were completely different. Grew up in a beautiful suburban area down there, $1 million home, all this kind of stuff, and seeing I wouldn't call it privilege, but maybe in a way I felt that way, right? That it's just they get such a head start in life. They get they're just opportunity. Like they get to go to nice colleges and it's all paid for and all those kind of things. And you know, as someone who didn't have any of that, it's almost like a jealousy starts to form a little bit. Like, why do they get that start and I'm over here, you know, struggling to survive? $20 for to go to the movies was a big deal. There was often times where we just couldn't do it because we didn't have $20 or whatever, just to go out. And like that's how I was raised and my friends. And the best thing that ever happened to me was getting a door-to-door job. How old
were you?
I was 22.
Okay.
Before that, I was just like I was ghetto like everybody else.
Did you go to college or? I
went to a junior college. Okay. I went to go play football and I've always been an athlete. That was one of the things that helped me stay away from some of the bad stuff that was in town. Was I played sports year round, and I did basketball, football, baseball, anything I can get my hands on. I love sports. I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
So for me, that was an outlet for that, and I enjoyed that. So that was a way to keep me away from that. But we commingled, right? All the guys that were running the streets, they were on the football team too. Right, they were on a basketball team too. They were part of the, and so you knew what was going on. And when you went out that night, it was like you saw them and you're friends with everybody, and it's like this cycle. But when I was 22, I was smoking weed, playing video games and stuff like that. That's all. Going to school, playing football, and not getting. I mean, my grades were okay. They weren't the best. And I remember my mom walked in. And she handed me a newspaper. She said, "You need to get a job or get out."
Damn.
And I know it was hard for her to say that, you know, but I'm glad she did. And she handed me a newspaper, and there was a red circle, and it said "sales job, call here." So I called it up, and I went in for an interview, and I said, "I don't know. My mom says I need to get a job, so that's why I'm here." And this was a door-to-door company, home improvement company, up in Northern California. They had 9 offices across the deal, and so they were very successful company. I didn't know that at the time when I walked in, but anyway, he says, "You know, you're too young for the in-home sales. Yeah, you don't have any experience, but this canvassing door-to-door thing, I think you could do." I said, "I don't know I don't know what canvassing is, but sure, sign me up." And so that's what I did, and I fell in love with it because for me, it was so easy to relate sales to sports. Where everyone else showed up like it was a job. Everyone else was showing up like waking up. You know how you wake up sometimes you just don't want to go to work. And I could feel that was a lot of the competition. And I didn't understand it. Because I'm like, I'm showing up and I'm just going to beat everybody. Like that, I'll do that. I'll be that guy, right? And so that's how I started my career in door-to-door, was that I just wanted to go out there and perform at the best that I could. And that changed my life, because once you switch the mentality from job to like competitive spirit in that world, like just like what he was saying about not ever giving up no matter what happens, like once you switch your mentality to that, you've just separated yourself from pretty much everybody else.
Yep. Because
everyone else is chilling. And so that started my career path, and it was very quickly that the company recognized that I was a influence in the company as someone who was a good door-to-door canvasser on the team, and that led into moving up in that rank of assistant manager to co-manager, branch manager, district manager, and by 23 I had 50 guys on my team. And I was doing 8 figures at that business, running the west side of their company. It was like they kind of split it up into two sections, and it was so much that I learned through that about myself and about other people and how to take care of people, and how to mentor them and how to be a leader and how to grow within yourself to help others grow. And that was all part of that door-to-door industry. And I was fortunate to be in a good company that had good leadership and good systems that they gave opportunity for guys like me to accelerate in their career path. The only reason why I left is that I hit a ceiling there. Mm-hmm. And they said, you're too valuable where you're at. We can't let you grow any further. And if it wasn't for that, I might still be there. If they didn't know how to give a guy like me wings to continue to fly. They put me in a cage. And I still say great things about that company because that's where I went from infancy, not knowing business, mm-hmm. to being able to run an 8-figure canvassing program.
Yeah, at that point, too, you're helping essentially be a managing partner for a company. You want equity. I assume that's kind of what you were looking for at that point. No,
I didn't care about equity. Oh. I just wanted experience. I wanted growth. Equity doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Equity only means something when there's a transaction. And that's actually what I'm talking about tomorrow in the conversation, and because I think that the American dream, as it is today, or as people's mind, they think, I want to be an entrepreneur. This word gets thrown around. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody's an entrepreneur now, right? What do? I wake up at 12 and I do whatever, and I had to go. No, you're not an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is someone who literally has the world on their back. And you have such an uphill battle. It's like that first event. The world that was felt like it was caving around, and still the event came out what I thought was a great event. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe everything didn't go as well as planned.
That's for everything in life.
Iffy on the food,
Jimmy John's.
But overall, the presentation, the work that was put in, the efforts.
It shows.
It shows.
Yeah, and like I always say this actually to a lot of people. Let's say you're in construction. Let's say you're in the roofing area. You have a bad first year, second year, third year. Your fourth year, a storm hits, boom, you're scaling, you're rocketing. The event space is 100% different because if you have one bad event, you won't have a second,
right.
You won't have a third. There's not going to be attendees, sponsors, vendors, none of that.
No,
So we did a good job, and I'm proud of it.
Look, dude, you are in a very exposure-driven industry.
Yeah.
As a roofer, if you're, especially these guys, a lot of them go door to door. You can have a bad day.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter. You're gonna, as long as you have a good attitude, the next day you won't have a bad day.
Yep.
And if you're having bad years, you don't know how to run a business.
Yep.
You should not be running a business. You should be a sales guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Because that is what got me to be able to scale into 8 and 9 figures, is because I knew how to sell. I knew how to scale the marketing side. Once you understand that, and I'm not discrediting the back end, because my first company that I ever started went bankrupt. I was 22, started canvassing. 23, I was a district manager running all these people. 24, I moved to Arizona, got recruited because I was already, they wouldn't let me grow. So I got recruited to Arizona to work for this company. Mm-hmm. By 25, I had started my own business because I went from going to the door-to-door building teams. Then I went in-home to go closing the home improvement deals, slaughtered it over there in that job. I was like, okay, I got this. I got the sales side. I understand this process. I want to start my own. And I partnered with somebody, and that was a double-edged sword because he was a lot older than me. Mm-hmm. I was always surrounded by a lot older guys. The mentor, right? The mentor people. If you can have great mentors, and you can have ones that can put you in a bad situation.
That's very true.
I had guys that were great at what they did, but put me personally in bad situations.
And you're talking business or personal?
Both, I guess.
Okay.
So, because for me, it all ties together. You know.
I'm just saying you can have like a mentor teach you good stuff in business, and then his.
Oh, and then his personal. I got it. Yeah. No. So I guess kind of both. Okay. I don't care so much about someone's personal stuff, unless it's like really bad. I care more about their ethics, especially when it comes to how they operate in the business environment, you know. And actually, one of our partners said the other day, he said, you know, if someone's going to cheat on their wife, they'll cheat on me in business. And we don't think of it like that, but it's so true, right? So it's just something to think about. But anyway, so 26, I was starting my own construction company. This time I wasn't in roofing solely. I sold roofs, but I was all around home improvements. And we had scaled that thing like all across the state of Arizona. It was blowing up and all these things. And what I didn't know was the back end. We knew how to sell and all this kind of stuff. So
sell, market, boom, but no. Yeah.
Got the marketing, got the sales. We outpaced our ability to produce the jobs. I can go in and sell a $200,000 room addition. And it'll take me 3 hours. Right? And as a sales guy, you might make 10, 15 grand in commission, 20 grand in commission, right? As a company, you might make 40 grand in profit, 50 grand in profit. But the guys are going to be there for months. Permits, construction, all these things. And then guess what? The next day I sold another one. So you think you're rolling in dough because you're selling. You're slinging all these deals. You're like, people, you think you're having success. And it's a falsehood. It's a falsehood. Because as soon as a job does not install right, that profit margin starts going down. Because now you're paying extra to go get it done. You outpace it. You can't get guys to do it. Homeowners start calling and complaining. They start going to the contractors board. This is real. I had 200 jobs. I was 26 years old. I had 200 jobs I could not fulfill. The money was gone.
Wow.
The money was gone on paying sales guys. The money was gone on overhead. The money was gone on marketing. The money was gone on time that I couldn't get the jobs.
You were 26?
I was 26.
My age.
Yep. By 27, I had filed for bankruptcy. By 28, the bankruptcy I went through. It took a year. Most bankruptcies happen like in a month. But because of how convoluted everything was. And that was because the business partner that I believed he knew the back end. And instead he was just taking money out of the company.
Damn.
And my name was on everything at that time. I was the financer. I was very, very good at saving money and not spending and very, very conservative because I came from nothing, right? So like when you have nothing, you get a check from your job and I'm gonna try everything I can not to spend this money. And I just did that for a while and saved up money enough to, feel comfortable and be able to go out on my own. He spent all my money. He spent all my money and the company's.
Damn.
And so, and again, my name was on it. So I had to stick it out. I thought I could outsell the problem. And I couldn't. I spent a year and a half trying to outsell it, trying to sell my way out of the hole that I was in, and it put me in $1 million bankruptcy. So at 28, I started over from zero. And then I got into roofing restoration, started hitting the doors, did 1.6 million our first 6 months.
And you were in sales, or you started your own company?
Started my own company.
Okay.
Started my own marketing company for a roofing contractor.
Obtaining leads, canvassing, like
just grabbing deals.
Got it.
Right. Project manager.
Got it.
And did 1.6 million our first 6 months, and I was like, okay, we're back. This time I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to make the same mistakes. And then eventually and that was another great contractor that helped us out. And it's interesting. I'll give you an example of entrepreneurship and creativity. So this company had 6 project managers. They've been in business since 2010.
Okay.
Right. And all these guys would, go knock the door, sign their deal, run their project, get paid or 10, 50, 50, however, whatever split they were on. And I took the numbers. I said, how do you guys pay this? He said, well, we give you $200 every claim. And then 10, 50, 50 on the back end. So that's interesting. Okay. So I went home and I took a whiteboard out and I wrote 200 per claim and 50, 50 on the profit. I said, how much is an average profit on one of these roofs that you guys do like this? Through the insurance. He said, guys will make like anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500 off the 50-50. Okay. So I went home and I said, can I build an entire company of $200 a claim? Can I scale this? Instead of being me, the guy knocking the door, doing the whole thing, can I scale? Can I build an entire organization off $200 a claim? So I said, what do I need? I need door knockers. I'll pay them $100 a claim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I need people to go to the adjustments. Pay them $15 a claim.
Mm-hmm.
I need people to go run and grab checks. I'll pay them a percentage of the claim. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I took $200, where a guy was getting, let's say, 3 to 5 claims a week if they were good at the job. I was getting 30.
Because then you're specializing in each specific role there. And
Correct.
And decompartmentalizing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful.
So
Smart.
I split it up and I took that $200 and I made it into a company.
Yeah.
And so that back end $1,000 to $1,500, that was all profit. Because I had deals just coming in and I was paying that $200 to the team to go get them.
So then how did you fix the issue with the production then?
This is after.
Okay.
I'm
saying.
This is after. So I wasn't the contractor.
Uh-huh.
Right? So I was, we were the marketing company.
Yep.
So we were on a 10-50-50. They were the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself I didn't want to be a contractor again after the first thing that I went through. And I got talked into it by some friends of mine. They're like, come on, man, like, you know how to do it. And at that time I did. I knew what the mistakes were that we made on the back end. I just didn't want the liability, or I didn't really care. Making good money just doing that. And eventually we met some public adjusters and how they were running it and the control they had on the claims process. And we're like, all right, fine. Let's just do our own thing. So we got our adjuster's license, got a contractor's license, and it just became a rocket ship at that point because I knew how to run the back end. I knew what to do because I had spent that year and a half fixing it. I just was in such a large hole that it was very difficult to get out of, and eventually I just put my hands up. And because we started getting the RLC complaints and everything else. So we ended up going and getting a contractor's license and all that stuff, and we ended up doing it ourselves. But that's why it's not just about the marketing and the sales is the most important, because without it, you can't have a business. But that's not where it ends, because that like he said earlier, the Wayne, right? Mm-hmm. Wayne said 90% marketing, 10% back end product. That may be true, but that 10% will bury the 90 if you don't know what you're doing. So even though I agree with that, marketing sales.
We did that for him too with the whole stuff that happened. Yeah.
Right. So it's so important to understand all aspects, and that's why people don't understand what entrepreneurship really is. Mm-hmm. It's a massive liability. It's a lot. And I always recommend to anyone who wants to, like when I have guys that come in and say, Dan, I want to be like you, I want to own my own business. I say, then my suggestion is to put the brakes on. Learn the marketing and sales first. You need to know how to grab customers. You need to know how to do that. Once you're excellent at that, then start learning the back end. And for me as an entrepreneur, for me as someone who I never want to be in the situation like I was in at 22, 23, 24, where I felt capped. I felt like my wings were clipped because the company needed me to be in that position. I never want to do that to someone. I want them to grow. So my philosophy in business is to give people the opportunity and a runway so they can have whatever life they want, and me be a part of that. And I've had guys leave that we trained and became big parts of our company and leave and even take guys. Right? The whole poaching deal with canvassing door to door. Mm-hmm. Poachers all over the place. I used to be upset. I used to be like, that's messed up, man. You learn the business because of me, and then you go and take my people. Like, I've never taken anybody from another company. I just don't believe in that. There's enough people out there, I don't need to do that. If someone wants to come with me because that, and I'll tell people, like, you should stay. No, Dan, we want to follow you. Okay, I'll do that, right? But the ethical side of me, it doesn't allow me to take someone else's person. I just can't do it. I just can't. I don't know. It's not in me. But everyone's not like that, right? There's people all the time poaching our deals. Poaching. There's permit poachers out there. There's all these poachers. Everyone's a poacher, right? Because it's easier to poach than it is to build. That's why they do it. So it's easier to poach than it is to build for yourself. I prefer the harder path, just naturally. I prefer, if I'm like, I'm a basketball guy, right? I play basketball all the time. I try to play 3-4 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And I would prefer to play against people that are way better than me than to play against people that are worse than me. It's just my nature.
Yeah.
Some people like to be the star of the show, right? Like I'd rather be the best player on not as good a team and shine than be a mediocre player on a very, very good team, because that's humbling. It's hard to do that. But I know that if I'm on the team that has the better coaching, the better staff, the better integrated technology, the better all that stuff, I'm going to be able to accelerate after and go further, farther, faster, instead of being the only guy that's being relied on. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. But the thing was, like, you can make money in anything. I took the same comp plan that these guys were getting paid, their 10, 50, 50 on, they're fat and happy at 80, 100, 120 grand a year, whatever they're making. And for me, I'm like, that's BS. I don't work for that. Like I need way more than that for me to feel good about what I'm doing, you know? And so it's the creative thinking where I took that same comp structure and turned it into a business. And I remember the owner of that company, and he comes to me and he goes, Dan, how are you doing this? Like when you told me, because I told him what I was going to do. Like, because he told me the comp plan. I went home, I figured it out. I said, I'm gonna do this. He's like, you can't do that. There's no way. I said, I'm going to do it. 6 months later, he says, Dan, let me talk to you, man.
How'd you do it?
He's like, how did you do? He said, I cannot believe what you built underneath this organization in the structure that you did. It's like, I didn't think that was possible. And it's just about thinking outside the box and being creative and pivoting when things get tough and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's so important for entrepreneurs to be able to do that. So from there, we built the PA company and the construction company, and we ran very well. Mm-hmm. There's ups and downs though. What you don't know can kill you in business. And there's always going to be things you don't know. It doesn't matter how good you are at what you do, how much experience you have, you're going to run into a roadblock that's going to tell you want to be cocky? You think you know everything? Here you go. And all of a sudden, boom, you're in a situation where like damn near collapsed.
Yeah.
And
I get it, trust.
I know. I'm talking to someone who has an entrepreneurial mind.
Yep.
And you've taken the steps to take those avenues.
Yep.
And so doesn't matter how much you think you know. That around that corner, something's coming. And you just have to know that and be prepared as an entrepreneur that, hey, I took this road to be an entrepreneur. I took this road to battle through adversity. So I can never give up. There is, though, a point to what Wayne was saying about waving the white flag when things are insurmountable. I did that in my first business. A year and a half too long, trying to outsell it. If I had just waved the white flag back then, shut it down, and started it, I would be years ahead already.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So there is a foresight to waving the white flag and saying, hey, this isn't working, and I don't want to create insanity within myself.
It's a good point too, because you can use that same concept of business, not wanting to give up. Obviously, it's a pro and a con, but you can even use that for anything else, a relationship, friendship. You know, when is too much? Should I give up on something? Is it worth pursuing? I guess in that moment, how do you tell yourself, because dude, I refuse to give up all the time, and just in life in general and business. And I think you know me pretty well. I like to always put my best foot forward. Having said that, how can you tell, I guess from your personal experience, like, all right, this isn't it, this is like cut, like I don't even call it give up, I guess just
pivot.
Pivot, yeah. I think that's
so a real entrepreneur doesn't give up, they pivot.
Okay, see, that's good, okay. I like that.
So a real entrepreneur says, let me allow the data to drive my decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing where a lot of people fall very short. If you're not driven by the numbers, the metrics that govern the industry you're in,
yeah,
and your productivity, mm-hmm. If you're not allowing the numbers to govern that, then you're not running a business. It's too much of a risk, because anything can happen anyway, but there's a calculated risk. There's a reason why the stock market has made so many multi-millionaires. There's a reason why investing in certain arenas create wealth, right? You know that if you buy a property and you hold on to that property for 20 years, that property is going to be worth more than it is today. Yeah. Even as inflated as today's market may be, or what people feel that the market is, you hold on to a property right now, in 20 years, guaranteed. You look at the history all the way back 100 years.
Yeah.
History repeats, right? History, it keeps going. The storyline keeps going. And what it shows is that metrics matter, numbers matter. So you have to take into consideration the numbers, and then you have to ask, what part is missing in my activity or process or system that's creating the result I'm not desiring from this? And then if it's something that you feel is insurmountable, there's no way to get out of this, or it becomes not worth it, or the cost versus reward isn't there,
opportunity, yeah,
then it's time to walk away and pivot to something else. And keeping your mind open to creative ways to do that. But and again, I'm similar. I don't like to give up. When the going gets tough, I double down. And you're probably a lot like that, where people might say, hey man, if it didn't work last time, why are you gonna do it again? That kind of thing. And it's like, because I'm going to, right? Because I'm gonna will it to happen. And you look at the greats, like, and that's why sports for me is an easy way to relate. Is like, you look at the greats in sports, and a lot of that is willpower. It's the desire to win. And oftentimes that's enough pushing you to get through those hurdles of adversity.
Damn. You're preaching to the choir, man. I'm pumped for tomorrow. No, that's good. So I think everything you're saying, I think, is beautiful, by the way. I'm soaking this in myself. I needed to hear this, believe it or not. So moving forward, like now with what you're doing, how did you scale up so quick?
Well, so what I'm starting to learn, right? And I don't know everything, and I like that, because as soon as I feel like I know everything, something real bad happens. Really bad. So I'm like, I got to keep myself humble. Like, hey, I don't know everything. Like, there's so much to learn, right? And what I wanted was to scale faster. And not more importantly, alternatively, what is the American dream? Is it to build a company that you're going to work in for 20 years and pass it down to your kids? Mm-hmm. I think 20 years ago that was the American dream. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that is the American dream any longer. I think more wealth is made through transactions than building companies.
By transaction, anything as simple as a conversation, dinner, or...
I mean selling companies. The buying, the acquisitions, the trading and selling of companies.
That's the new fix and flip, man. No one's doing... The minor leagues are real estate, fix and flip. The big leagues are companies.
Exactly. And so I wanted to, and I started recognizing that. Mm-hmm. So I was already on a pathway to, how do I sell my business? I want to build it to sell it. Okay? Yeah. Met some guys, EPC, nerd. Okay? I come from the alpha world, right? I'm the alpha army, that whole branding, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are nerds.
Okay? You're like,
and so it didn't resonate with me at first.
Okay.
It was hard for me. It was very hard. I told them that. But they resonated with me so well. Their ideas, like the nerd team, they were a powerhouse of smart and passion and aggression at understanding and building quality businesses. And they had a lot of experience in buying and selling companies. So I'm like, that's the environment I want to be in. Okay? So I had to rebrand, right? And my everything. And so what we did was bolted our company to a bigger company that was already in multiple states. They saw the model that we were doing. Mm-hmm. We were PA, contractor, and we were selling solar. We had cracked the code. Everyone's talking about it now. This was just buzz stuff a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's talking about selling solar through roofing. No one's really doing it. It's very hard to cross those because you have guys that specialize in roofing.
Yeah.
And then you have guys that specialize in solar, and they cannot.
It's two different sports. Yeah.
We cracked the code. And we cracked the code by selling a roof with roofers. But when we get to the construction part of it, putting in a real solar closer and teaching them roofing. They didn't have, so they can concentrate on flipping roofs to solar. So it took us a year. It took us literally a year, and people were saying it's not working. We were going into all these roofing appointments and not selling. So it was like every once in a while. Finally, our VP of sales went in there, and in 1 week he sold 13 out of 15 appointments. Went to 15. Imagine going to 15 roof color appointments and 13 of them buy solar from you. And we're like, figured it out. So we created the training module for it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now we figured out, okay, so once we got that down, now we're double dipping, really double dipping, where 40% of our roofs turn into solar jobs too. That model is very unique. And so these guys saw that and they said, we want that, because they're just a solar company.
Yeah.
But they're an EPC, right? They install their own solar projects, and they're millionaires.
And detach and reset it as well.
And these guys are multi-millionaires, and you have to be in solar. If you're going to be a successful EPC, you have to have a lot of money in the bank, because for every 100 solar jobs that you install, you have to carry $1.5 to $2 million. You have to carry that until the project closes out.
Until you get paid out. Wow.
So if you don't have that kind of cash, you're not going to be an EPC. You're not going to be around for very long.
Wow.
Okay, and especially now, because everything's got moved to the back end. There's no more front money, and that's because of bad actors in the industry. But anyway, so they saw the model. Roofing has cash flow up front. It's a win, right? We can cash flow the business off roofs and sell the solar. So immediately, as soon as they acquired our company, right, now we're in all these states, and they have the ability to recruit hundreds of people and do all these things, do whatever. So it was very easy in that to scale it from there. And that's because I walked away from the ego and said I would rather be a mid-level player on the best team than be the best player.
Yeah.
You kind of see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yes, I do.
So it's been humbling, but it's also been educational. And what I've learned is that the future is acquisition. The future, like you look at Tommy Mello, right? He built a great brand with his garage door company.
Yeah, he did. Okay. Exceptional.
One of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Sold it. You're not done. He's going for what's called the second bite of the apple.
Round two. Yeah.
Round two. So now what the private equity company does, or strategic buyer, or whoever's coming in, what they're going to do is they're going to say, here's a bunch of money. We are going to buy every garage door company that meets this criteria in the regions that we're already in. And there's different ways to do it, right?
Yeah.
But that's the future of where the home service industry is going. And I was actually on my way here when I was on the plane. I had a little bit of time. I was working on some stuff in my presentation and stuff. I got updated a little bit. And I was watching this video about the service industry and private equity. I'm studying, right? I want to become one of the best at it and understanding it. And private equity has been circling the home service industry for about 10 years.
Yeah, they're just not kind of.
And the reason why is because it was viewed as unstable.
I think COVID changed that perception of it. It had to.
I think it's a combination of COVID and profit margin. So they didn't understand the profit margin within the home service industry. It's incredible. It's like a roof, and when you know what you're doing, it can be extremely profitable.
Yeah.
And so they're starting to see that, the HVAC companies, all these things. And so we have a formula. So we've talked to venture capitals and private equity companies and strategic buyers. We've been talking to them because we're positioning as a platform company. which is going to start acquiring all these companies, right? And so there's companies that want to offer us, 10, 15, 20 million dollars to just go and start acquiring businesses, or $100 million or $200 million. We're not ready yet. We're ready to take cash if it's not an acquisition. Like, we don't want to be bought right now.
Yeah.
We're waiting until we're going to bolt on a few companies. And that's part of the future of what I'm talking to you about, is that we take some companies that meet a certain parameter, and we have a rocket ship. This is a rocket ship. It's going up, okay? And let's say this rocket ship does 100 to 150 million a year, and over the next 2 years it'll do 300 million, right? We take another company who's doing 5 to 10 million, and you attach it. And then you attach another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. Now all of a sudden you're doing $500 million a year. The multiplier at an exit at a transaction could be anywhere from 12 to 22% EBITDA. So if you run a clean business, roofing companies run around a 14%, solar companies run around a 10, 11%, right? HVAC companies run around a 14%, so you blended average around 12. You're doing 500 million. That's a massive multiplier. And if you have your own technology, if you're vertically integrated, you run all your own install crews, you have all that stuff, everything's in-house, you're commanding somewhere around an 18 to a 20 times multiplier.
It's a numbers game.
So imagine your yearly income, right? And someone's saying, I'm going to give you 20 times that today. That's what an EBITDA play is. That's what selling a company is. But what happens is, guys that sell their company, let's say they're a solar company and they sell solar, right? They don't install it. You can get a 1 to a 1.5 times because of how volatile it is. Sales leadership goes, company's done. But if you're a solar company and you install your own solar, now you're trading it 4 to 6 times.
Wow.
You're more stable. Okay? Now let's say you have sales, lead gen sales, install, and you have growth, like you're growing. You're hitting volume now, like 50, 80, 100 million. Now you're commanding an 8 to 10 times multiplier.
That makes sense.
Okay? Now you want to get to the highest level? You've proven that you can acquire businesses, so you can bring them in, fold them up,
Replicate them.
You can do that internally and externally, meaning you can.
So Tommy does. He brings them into.
That's right. That's exactly what he's doing.
He's a genius.
It's you bring them in. Think about it. You built a $10 million company. I built a $10 million company. Together we're 20.
Yep.
Separate, we suck.
Yep.
Okay. We don't think we suck because you got an ego and I got an ego. We think we're big dogs, but really, the $20 million company is 4 to 5 times more valuable than the $10 million company.
Yep.
So if we come together, instead of getting a 1 times multiplier, together we get a 4 times. So you get 2, I get 2. You see that it's basic math.
Yeah, and,
right?
then the external, the middleness connectivity, in this case being a private equity firm, can 10x that from 2.
Well, that's what they're going to do. So
that's crazy.
So then now you have you've proven that you can bolt on these companies. You can do all this stuff. You can expand into multiple markets, right? The next step is multiple industries within your business.
Got it.
So the highest multipliers, you're talking about roofing, HVAC, and solar all in one. So now you have a business that's doing all of that, all vertically integrated.
One-stop shop.
One-stop shop, the whole deal. And it's running smooth. And it's showing proof that you can do all these things and move into markets.
Damn.
So this is what we're building, right? This is our target, our goals, our aspiration. So that way the private equity company sees that track record, and they're going to go on a trailing 24, meaning what were your last 24 months of revenue and EBITDA, and so they're going to see that, and that's how they're going to base their evaluation of the business. We're targeting for $500 million.
So let me ask you a quick question. I know time's a little bit of the essence,
Sure,
but I guess what's the overall goal for you as a person in the next 10, 15 years? What does Dan want to do? Not from a business perspective.
Just Dan personally?
Yeah.
Well, I
what's the end game for you?
The end game is freedom and time. the ability to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. If you're stuck in a 9 to 5, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. If you are an entrepreneur and the business owns you, and I've been there, you can't do it either.
Yeah.
So there's stages to it. And for me, like, in order for me to have the things in life, that I personally want to have, my business, has to be in order as well, right? It's kind of like, it's both. Mm-hmm. Now I have a family. I'm married, and I love my wife, and I have 2 beautiful kids, and one's 3 and one's going to be 2 in November. And what's the most amazing thing I think of all this stuff is, no matter how accomplished I am in business, the kids matter more. No matter how successful I may become or not become or whatever happens, my family's still more important. So for guys that are hustlers, that are grinders, that are like putting passion before pleasure and all that kind of stuff, we're always going to be in a battle of importance and priority. And where, like, we can say, hey, I work so hard so that my family can have more nicer stuff, but all the family wants is your time. So the only way that I can really give them real time is by creating freedom. And freedom comes from an excess and abundance of capital. So I have to have the business at a certain level to create the excess of capital so that I can have the freedom to spend more time with my family.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So for anyone watching, that's aspiring to be like someone like yourself, wants to be successful, could be any industry, what would be kind of your closing statement to tell the viewer?
The first thing I would say is, you have to start something, right? You have to be accountable to yourself. You have to be able to show up every day. You can't be someone that is untrustworthy on your word, right? You have to, when you say something that you say, I'm going to be there tomorrow at 8 o'clock, you have to be there tomorrow at 8 o'clock. If you say that I'm going to go 6 days a week, then you have to go 6 days a week. If you're going to say that you're going to accomplish something in your life, then you have to fight to accomplish that thing, and people have to see it, and people will see it. So it doesn't matter where you are in life, you have to start. Once you start and you commit to yourself that you're going to give everything to becoming successful, and I'll put it in a different way too. I said this to my buddy the other day. When I wake up in the morning, I feel like it's halftime, and I'm down by 2 touchdowns, and it's the Super Bowl. And I'm in the locker room, and the coach is saying, you're either going to die out there on the field, or you don't belong there. Because you are in an arena that no one, the percentage of people in the world, let alone players, the percentage of actual players that end up in a Super Bowl, and an opportunity to wear one of those rings in their life is so rare, and to not give everything you have into that thing, even though you're down by 2 touchdowns and it's halftime. And so that's how I wake up in the morning.
That's amazing. That's probably the best metaphor I've heard you on how to wake up in the morning. That's how I'm going to start seeing it.
Dude, it's
wow.
It gets me because I'm like,
Yeah.
look, I'm not any. See, to me, like people, even when I was younger and I started building things and stuff, and they were like, Dan, you're so successful. And I was saying, dude, I don't feel successful at all.
That's how I feel.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel successful at all. I feel like, not that I'm a phony, but that I don't feel successful yet. I feel like there's so much more.
That's how I feel.
And I'm going to act as if I'm down by 2 touchdowns, and I have the ability with my talent to win. And I'm going to go out today to win. And I'm going to go out every day because the entire team is counting on me to show up the best version of myself and to win. And once you can be counted on like that, everything else is going to fall in place. On the professional side, everything's going to fall in place if you can be counted on and you can show up every day and you say you're going to do something and you do it. That's just who I was. That's who I am. I tell you, I shake your hand. You don't have to talk to me for a year. I shake your hand, I will be the same person. If I tell you that this is what I'm going to do for that year, I will have done it, or I will have died trying.
Boom. Damn. Thank you guys for tuning in for this American Dream podcast. I'll see you guys in the next one.